Yo, what is up, everybody? My name is Kid Ikarus, and this is my podcast. My guest today is a fantastic hip hop artist from Denver, Colorado. You can find his most recent single, Oxygen, over on Spotify, along with his album, Cherry Woods. Please welcome Backpack Zach.
Thank you, man. Glad to be here. I have a conscious thought, like, okay, I'm locking the door. And then I walk to my car, get in my car, and I'm like, fuck. And then I just get out.
Yeah,
and go,
no,
like,
I do the exact same thing.
It's so
Same
frustrating.
thing with like the lock on my car, where like if I park somewhere, like lock the door, I'll walk away and then like turn around and click the button a few more times until I hear it beep.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm always unsure about everything. So what's up, man? What have you been up to lately? Um, yeah, any good shows lately that you performed at?
Yeah. My last show was actually at it was a little bar in Santa Monica.
Okay.
Man, now I'm blanking on the name.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cool name, though. I'll think of it
Does
later.
it happen to be the Trip?
No.
No, okay.
That is a cool name, though.
It's a pretty cool spot. I mean, I've only been there for like they have like a afternoon open mic.
Oh, really?
I don't know if they still do. I haven't been there since before the pandemic. So
Okay.
it's hard to know what place. I used to use
Yeah.
this website called openmics.org. Mike spelled like the name Mike instead of like the mic, but they would have all these open mics on there. But it didn't update during the pandemic. So now everything on there, I'm like, I don't know if any of these places are still going on because like so many places shut down and stuff. I know that the
Right.
bar is still open. I don't know if they do the open mic. They probably have started it up again by now.
Yeah, I mean, I hope. I think it's such a good, like, especially in this town, like for bars to just be like, hey, let's have an open mic. Because there's so many like artists who just want to,
I mean, it's compared to the other option that is like having to sell tickets and stuff. Like open mics are necessary for anybody who's starting out and doesn't have anybody to sell tickets to.
Totally, yeah.
So you last show was at a little bar in Santa Monica, yeah?
Lost and Found.
Lost and Found. Oh, that is a cool
bar.
cool
I know,
name.
right? Yeah, it's a really cool little bar. My friend Keen Visions. I don't know if you know him. Yeah. He kind of put together a little show that he let me on, and it was super awesome, man.
Right on.
I actually do have another show coming up Wednesday, actually.
Okay.
At Adults Only in Hollywood.
Okay.
It's this company called Breaking Sound. They're actually super cool company. And they kind of do something similar to Something Dope, but they basically just, you submit your music in, and then somebody emailed me back. They're like, hey, we like it. Like, you want to come on for a 30-minute set? And I'm like,
oh, dang, 30 minutes.
Yeah. And then they were like, yo, can you sell 30 tickets? And I was like,
yeah.
Because I was like, I just moved here. Like, 30 tickets, I honestly wouldn't blink in Denver.
Yeah.
I'd be like, yeah, definitely. But I just moved here, so I was like, sure.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of tickets.
So we'll see, man. We'll see. I'm definitely gonna try to, get as many as I can. And
yeah, right on. Where's that one at?
It's called Adults Only.
Okay.
It's in Hollywood. It's like off La Brea or maybe Sunset.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's Sunset and La Brea.
All right. So you moved here from Denver.
Yeah.
How has the scene and the culture been like different from being in Denver?
I think the biggest difference is meeting so many like-minded individuals, which is just so great. I mean, another thing is like there's so many events like what we're just talking about, like, Something Dope. Places where you can network with people who are like-minded. And there's not a whole lot of that going on in Denver. There's definitely some, but I think in general, this place is just so nice to be able to connect with other people, who are trying to build.
And you're stationed more so in like the Hollywood area?
So I do live in Santa Monica area.
Okay.
Right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Because this is such a dense city where like the environment in Santa Monica is so different than like Long Beach is down that way, that the Inland Empire is a completely different scene than everywhere else. And so, yeah, it is interesting how, like, to me, all big cities are the same, you know, but like, that's because I don't really know any other big cities than here. You know, I expect Denver to be essentially like a smaller LA, but I know that, like, yeah, artists, there's not as many artists in other places as there are here in LA.
Here, right? Yeah. And I think, like, you're from here, right?
I moved here when I was 15, but I was born here. I moved to Washington for a while, Arizona to a while, and Colorado for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You did live in Colorado for a while.
Yeah, just Colorado Springs for 2 years.
Yeah. I love the Springs. The Springs is a great place.
Yeah. Yeah, it was nice. My brother still lives out there. It's weird because it was so short that, like, I didn't really have friends and stuff. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
You gotta, like, stay somewhere for a while before you get, like, a feel for it. Yeah.
Totally.
I did do kung fu at Colorado for like a year though.
Really?
Yeah.
How was that?
It was, I don't know. I can't tell. It's hard to judge. Cause like now I do like competition kind of MMA. You know?
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it's hard to look back and be like, cause any style could be good and any school could be good. It depends on how, like, tested the people who run it are. Like, since I was young at that time, I was 14 at the time, I don't think, and just beginning, they didn't throw me in the deep end like my martial arts class here did. So it's hard for me to judge whether or not it was a legitimate school or not.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, moving to LA, how has your music efforts been rewarded? How's that been going? Did you release Oxygen after coming to LA or before?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
So yeah, I think those last 2 songs I've been living here.
Okay.
Trying to do, and Oxygen. I think one thing that this city does in general, and I don't want to talk shit about my city. I love my city.
Yeah.
But me in particular, this might have been my fault also, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But felt like I was surrounded by people who our ambition wasn't aligning.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when I moved here, it's like everybody here has like an amplified ambition. Do you think?
Yeah, I get you. Everybody's trying to be the top. Everybody's trying to get to the highest place they can because, yeah, this is the place where stars are. I mean, I was going to say stars are born, but this is the place where stars end up. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I think there's just it's the general vibe here, and it's the people that you meet. You know, everybody's very driven, and they're all like just not making excuses type people.
Yeah.
And I think Denver, for whatever reason, man, I think one reason is it's so beautiful. Like just the land is amazing. Like there's lots of views everywhere. People are genuinely like happy.
Yeah.
And not very like, we got to get it, you know? And I think that the whole culture here is just very much like, nope, any means necessary. Like, we got to do this. We got to make this happen. Like, this is why we came out here, you know? And for that reason, I think that's helped me a lot to just like turn it up a notch, because you are who you hang with, you know?
Yeah.
Subconsciously. Even if you don't, you know, you're like, oh, you differentiate like your differences between your friend group. You still are comparing yourself to that, and therefore like not working as hard as you can.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I always say like you're like the combination of the 5 people you hang out with the most.
Yeah.
And
I totally agree with that.
Yeah. And so like when you're hanging out with people that are kind of like, oh, these people aren't doing as much as they could be, you start absorbing too much of that. So you gotta be able to be like, nah, I need a new environment.
Exactly.
To be in. Yeah. Oh man, I had a thought there. hustling people hustling here, ambitious here, stars here. Man, I forgot what I was going to
I
say.
hear you.
Yes, so about the fact that like people are genuinely happy in Colorado. Yeah, I think that a part of it too is that here they say that they've done studies before. I don't know if they have. I'm saying stuff I've heard as if it's a legitimate fact. I've heard before that people are more happy in poverty when their city is isolated in poverty because they can't compare it. But if you have a poor area next to a very rich area, the poverty is felt more
They're
greatly.
really unhappy about
and
it, right?
In LA, we have that. We have the richest people in the world, and then we have very poor places.
Right.
And so that I think part of that ambition comes from seeing both sides where you're like, I want to be there and I want to not be there,
Yes.
you know? And so that contrast, it's also like the thing that I think people don't expect when coming to LA is how, you walk down Hollywood Boulevard and there's like a block that's really nice.
Yes.
And then you pass that block or you go one street over and it's slums.
Yeah.
Like it's the grimiest place.
Totally, man.
Yeah, right? Yeah. What were you, did it live up to your expectations coming here? Like,
so that's what's so
shocking?
Funny. Like, I used to live in LA, Hollywood.
Yeah.
Back in the day, like when I moved, I got out of high school. I graduated high school, and I was like, I'm not going to college. I found this trade school called Musicians Institute. It's off like Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah.
And so I just moved out here. Like I had like student loans and shit. I was getting like $120 a week, and like going to school. And it was so fucking rough, bro. Like honestly, like I hated it because I also didn't have a car. So then I'm like landlocked in the middle of Hollywood. I live off Hollywood Boulevard, like right on like Yucca. I don't know if you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's like your neighbors are people who live in tents and stuff, you know, like, and it was just so grimy and dirty. And it's like, dude, this is not what you expect because, you know, Hollywood Boulevard's on the movies, you know, like everything you see scenes of them like on the movies and stuff. And you're like, oh, it's dope there. It's so sunny. No, you go one block to the north.
That's the trick, right? They tell you it's right off Hollywood Boulevard. And you're like, of all the places that are going to be nice, it's got to be there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, no, Beverly Hills is nice.
Exactly.
Hollywood, not nice at all.
I think that's the thing is like people from out of state, they think like Beverly Hills and Hollywood are like the same thing.
Yeah.
I thought that.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, no.
Yeah, and part of that is the fact that like other places aren't as condensed as LA where like it is just 2 blocks away. Like,
right.
You go from the slums to the nicest parts in like it's 5 minutes. Even in LA traffic, it's a 5-minute drive.
Right, yeah.
And like it's wild how it works like that.
Totally.
Especially because like you'd think that all these rich people would not want to be around the like dangers of those places, but like they still are putting their like high-rise business buildings in like K-Town, and like you walk outside the building and it's like homeless people all over, and like not to degrade any homeless people, but you don't feel necessarily safe when there's somebody yelling at himself walking down the street and you're like, oh, this guy could do anything to me.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, I definitely have some stories too. Like I remember back when I lived in Hollywood, we were doing this show like 2 blocks. It was like on La Brea. And we left the show and we walked up to go get some Gatorade from like the gas station. And we walked past these dudes. And I lived there. So there was this older black dude who used to smoke a blunt every day. He'd smoke a Swisher in front of this gas station. There was also a homeless Vietnam vet, white guy, and he was in a wheelchair. And I'd seen them both multiple times, you know? And I walked past them. We didn't think anything of it. They were kind of arguing back and forth. Put that blunt out. He's like, put the weed out. Put the weed out. The dude was like, I stand here every fucking day. Like, you got me fucked up. We walked down the street. We came back. There's cops everywhere. There's a pool of blood, bro. Like, the dude, like, fucking stabbed him, bro. The guy in the wheelchair stabbed him. And it's like...
And then did he run away?
That's the thing. We were like, where is he?
Yeah.
And they were like, he got away. So then, like,
Bro.
they're looking for this dude on a wheelchair who's homeless. Yeah. And I was like, bro, are you joking?
Dude is the fastest arms.
Right? He's like, he must have went downhill.
Yeah.
But no, for real, it's like, and that's the thing, dude, is like so much of that stuff is so unregulated.
Yeah.
Because they know they can't do
anything
about it. Like, yeah. It's a huge problem that's just growing. And
yeah, and it's so many people. You can't with any amount of people there's chaos, but with this many people there's tons of it.
Yeah.
And you can't do anything about it. There's no solutions. I mean, the best you can do is try to give some mentally ill people mental health care, but even that is a shady thing, because like you think about like homeless people particularly, like how do you get them into care? Like most of them would not want care if you offered it to them. And then like if you start making rules where it's like, well, we're going to force people to get care, well, who's going to be the judge of who's actually insane or not? That's where it gets tricky.
Exactly.
Because like once you give somebody power to determine somebody's sanity, like that's a lot of power. They're going to abuse it.
Yeah.
No question. Like it's going to be abused.
I know, especially if you like you try to make a rule, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like with these people, they're people. They're individuals. Yep. They all have individual problems. Like you can't address, you know what I mean? Where it's like, hey, you guys can't wear pants out. Like you have to wear pants when you're outside. Like that's a very, everybody can do that. But you can't do that with mental health. You can't draw the line and be like, if they do this, then they're crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like there's so many blurred lines and stuff. And yeah.
This brings us to this discussion. Creative people are crazy,
insane people.
Yeah,
100%.
So there's a thin line between somebody who could be revolutionary and somebody who's crazy.
Yeah.
And so like when you start being like, when you start trying to determine which one's which, it's impossible. You can't do it.
Exactly.
So with you and your music career here, what has been, you go see people perform and stuff. Who has been the oddest performance that you have seen? Has there ever been a show that you've gone to or an open mic where somebody's performed and you're like, this dude is losing his mind right now. Like he's having a breakdown on stage.
I think, were you there when that dude Legion came on?
Oh, I've seen him. Yeah.
Dude, that guy is fucking sick, bro.
He's pretty great. Yeah.
When he was, like as you were saying that was the act that popped into my head, because he performed that song Psycho. You remember?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm a motherfucking psycho.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, this is wild. Like, this is what you should be doing, he's really standing out.
Yeah, I've talked to him on Instagram after that performance. Yeah. And we were talking like, I love that he does like dubstep inspired beats. Yeah. Like I have said for a long time, like I don't know why more people aren't doing that, because like it blends perfectly.
I agree.
Like hip hop with like hard EDM, like it's a perfect match. Both are aggressive styles of music.
Yep.
And like it blends together really well. And then have you seen his videos?
Yeah.
Like they're all very like reminiscent of like Power Man 5000 and like other like late 90s early 2000 metal bands.
Yeah.
And he does a fantastic job of blending
super
those.
Sick. Yeah. I totally agree, bro. He's very like an individual,
Yeah,
like,
right.
He's really paving his own way. Shout out to that dude, Legion.
Yeah, shout out Legion. I think that with the way trends in music go, like he's on the forefront of a wave that is coming.
I agree. I agree. That's definitely like an untouched gem.
Yeah. Yeah, because I follow metal music a lot, and I used to be mocked because I love Limp Bizkit. Limp Bizkit was my favorite band when I was like 16.
Okay.
And people would be like, that is the worst band ever. Limp Bizkit is now respected in the metal community.
Hell yeah.
And I feel vindicated, but it's that same wave. It's that same wave of like late 90s, early 2000 new metal, and like to get ahead of the curve like Legion is, to be like, I'm gonna blend these styles right now before anyone else does. Yeah, props to him for figuring that out.
For real, that is so sick.
Yeah,
and it's also just so sick to like to be like, okay, I've never heard anything like this. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna drop it.
Yeah,
you know, because it's one thing to make a song like that, and then, you know, I mean, I don't know if you feel like this, but this is kind of the thing with writer's block, is like when I make a song that's different from stuff that I've made before, mm-hmm. I'm like, automatically, I'm like, is this trash as fuck?
Yeah.
Kind of. Like, there's a part of me that's like, is this dog shit?
Yeah.
You know? And then I show it to a couple people and they're like, oh, this is cool. I love this. And I'm like, okay. So they see the vision. Mm-hmm. But like, at first, you know, with just that primary source of yourself being like, okay, I just made this, is super different. Like, should I put it out? And then just not second guessing it and being like, dude, drop.
What song have you released that's like that? What's the song that has tried a risk that you weren't sure about when you made it?
For sure, my newest song, Oxygen, actually.
Okay. Yeah. What's the risk? What did you do different there that you weren't sure about?
So I think the biggest thing, thinking back on it, it's a different type of song. Like, it's very melody driven, simple.
Okay.
And I'm singing more.
Okay.
Mostly I rap and like looking for bars, metaphors, stuff like that. But this one, I was like, this is how this beat's making me feel. Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing, looking back, besides all of the differences music-wise, because I've always known that I was like capable of making different type of music. Mm-hmm. This song, I've been dating a girl for 7 years.
Okay.
She was my high school sweetheart. We like turned into adults together. I don't know if you had a relationship like that, but it's like, it's really hard to break up with that person if you feel like it's not right anymore. Mm-hmm. It's like an impossible thing. And I also, throughout me writing music, it's always been kind of this persona that's writing it, that's like my ego, you know, where I'm like, oh, I don't care about these girls. Like, I run through them. Like, I don't care. And this was the first song where I was like, dude, this girl fucked me up to the point where I feel like my life is stopping because of it, you know? Mm-hmm. And so to tap into a different type of music is one thing, but to tap into those real raw emotions that I've never been able to
express so clearly. And
exactly. Like that. That was what was super different for me.
It's that vulnerability that you weren't sure about.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get that. I have written songs like that where I am trying to express something meaningful.
Yeah.
And I have absolutely failed at it.
Me too.
Where like I went to a studio to like record it nice. I had it written and performed it. And my friends were there laughing, and I was like, oh, snap. This was a bad move. Yeah. I was like, this is going to be great. It's so different, so weird. Yeah. They were laughing, and then I was like, oh, is it not working? They were like, no, it sounds great. And I'm like, nope, I can tell. They do not like this. I was like, all right, so this one's not getting on the mixtape.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's great that like that one turned out, like you showed it to people, and they were like, yeah, this is good. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, for sure. It was like a lot of people that were like following my music already. They were like, I feel like I was waiting for this song.
Okay, you know? Yeah.
And I'm like, interesting. And that's another reason why I was a little hesitant to put it out, is because it's like I have been building this fan base. So now they expect a certain vibe from me. Mm-hmm. And at the same exact time, that's exactly why I did drop it, because I don't want them to have these expectations. Like, this is his sound. Mm-hmm. You know, I just feel like then you get put into this box.
Oh, bro, I think that the best artists release projects that don't sound like the last.
Totally agree.
That's my mark of a good artist.
Yeah.
I always bring up Kanye on this podcast. I love Kanye.
Yeah. And he's a great example. Yeah.
That's what I think is his biggest strength, is his ability to make albums that are cohesive and every song sounds like they fit together, but each album's different than the last.
100%.
But also Kendrick, J. Cole, and Mac Miller all did the same thing too, where each album has its own sound, but it's different than the last album's sound.
I was definitely gonna mention Mac Miller as well.
Yeah,
Mac Miller is a huge inspiration for me, but for that reason exactly, actually, that he's so, it's like he progressed like ultra fast. It's like his life being knew that it was going to be here short, and he had to progress.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I don't know, I've seen lots of interviews of people talking about him and stuff, and they're like, the dude just didn't fucking stop. Like, he just made music, more music. And like, it's almost like there was something inside of him, like, I don't know why. I just have to keep creating.
I love that with him. There's a bit of an underdog story, I think, because like he kind of blew up with Blue Slide Park was the name of the first one, and then kind of dropped off after that. Where like the next one, the movies, watching movies with the sound off or something. That one didn't hit as big as the first one did, and like he had to claw his way back, and like he does it successfully after intertwining with like some legit hip hop artists, like because he came over here and started working with Vince Staples and Schoolboy Q, who are like top notch, and like
I agree
with Blue Slide Park, he seems, and all his early mixtapes too, it seems like, oh, this guy is playing with this college rapper fad and he's going to be gone like the rest of them. And then after mixing with people like Kendrick and Vince Staples and Schoolboy Q, he was able to redefine himself as a legitimate hip hop artist. 100%. And like that is an inspirational story right there.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Schoolboy is kind of underrated for what he is.
I agree. I actually totally agree.
Yeah, his album, the Oxymoron album, is wall to wall some of the catchiest music, and like I like people who spit bars and stuff.
Yeah,
but they're good for one listen. You know what I mean? Like if I want an album that I can put on repeat, like I need catchiness, you know, 100%. Like I need good hooks. I need something I can latch onto. And man, that Oxymoron album, like not only is every song have a catchy hook, like every verse too has different like rhythms that get stuck in your head. Like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. How do you balance like a need to be lyrical and say what you need to say with the more musical side of things of being like catchier, poppier? How do you view that?
That's actually a really good question. I did want to talk about that.
Okay.
Because I feel like, you know, in this day and age, especially if you're going to be lyrical, you have to be very melodic, you know? Because people don't want to hear that anymore. Like there was an era for like the futuristics and the Dizzy Wrights, Logics almost, where it's like bars. Like they want to hear people spitting. But I think it came and went pretty fast. And I think that people are more onto like the almost Young Thuggish, you know, where it's like it's lyrical, like he's saying lots of words and like pitter-pattering on the beat, but it's also very melodic.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I've always been you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Trying to slow myself down.
Okay, yeah.
So I think sort of I just realized that's what I do naturally, and I started only focusing on the melodies and stuff, you know, because I'm like, okay, you're a lyrical dude. Like that's what's going to happen when you make songs. So let's focus on creating good melodies, you know what I mean, that are like catchy, and then the lyrics will be the lyrics. You know?
Yeah. I think that's a good tactic. I think that it's a good tactic in any field to look at the thing you're good at and focus on something else, you know, because the good thing you're good at, you're going to do naturally.
Exactly.
So you might as well push yourself. I actually say that with like, I think that that's a good tactic for bringing in influences that you're not used to. Is like, all right, so you listen, you have the sound that is your like deeper part of you. So like every song you go, oh, I'm gonna try and take this aspect from this other sound, and then when you try to make a song that sounds like that, it's going to be somewhere in between you and them. It's not going to sound like that because you're not good enough at that sound to make a song that sounds like that. Yeah, 100%. So it ends up being your own sound with just a twist on it.
Yes.
And I think that that's a good way to develop other sounds in your own sound. Is just to be like, what's a little thing here? Do you make your beats? Where did that come from?
I don't make my beats.
Okay.
I've made beats that I've rapped on before.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love my beats.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
That's that's what it comes down to. I was gonna think of something like, oh, I'm not that good. I make beats. They're all right.
Yeah.
I don't think they inspire me the same way. Partially because of like I started it from scratch.
Yeah.
When I hear a beat that's made and I'm like, oh, look at that. That has a thorough vibe, you know, that I can compliment. And that was another thing that I kind of realized is like, I'm good at rapping. I'm good at making words onto the beat. So I started honing in on like mixing and producing and stuff like that. And I did for a long time, honestly. And it kind of, I don't want to discourage other people because there are people who can do everything.
Yeah.
But for me, it was wearing on me. Everything was wearing on me in the sense that like I wasn't loving the music I was making. I just felt like I was making it like a product, you know, like, and it was taking away the fun for me. So then I kind of quit. I stopped making music probably from like 2019, maybe early 2018 to like 2020 because I was trying so hard to make beats and stuff. And then all of a sudden one day I was like on YouTube and I saw a beat and I was like, fuck it, let's just see what it sounds like, you know? Yeah. And immediately some words came to my head and I was like, oh, this is what I like. I forgot, you know, that this is the only thing I like. I like to be like, oh, this guy made a cool beat. Now I'm going to make a cool rap to it. You know?
I totally understand that. When I was younger, when I was like in high school, I was making like everything. I had like 3 songs that I used YouTube beats for. And then from there on out, I was like, I don't want to deal with trying to buy beats. Like I'll just try to make stuff. And it was terrible for the most part. Most of it was absolutely terrible. When I first started, I was using a Casio keyboard for everything, including drums. And like it was no ability to quantize it. So it was all just based on the rhythm.
It was literally your timing.
Yeah. I had to line up the tempo and terrible choices of sounds using like air flutes and stuff. Like it was horrible.
That's how it always starts, right?
Yeah. Eventually I started working on some new programs and getting a couple good songs, but it was literally like 2. Like I had like 2 out of like, I don't know, 30 songs over that course of time. Yeah. But after a long break of not doing music, I was like, I'm going to start making music. And you know what? I'm just going to use YouTube beats for this one because like I just want to focus on writing. I just want to, because I'm good at this and it's the one thing I'm really good at. And then after I put out a mixtape that was like that, I started making my own beats simply because I couldn't find beats in the style I wanted.
That's super valid too.
Yeah. Also, like there tends to be a problem with, particularly with like pre-made beats, but also with hip hop beats in general, of like not switching up for different sections of the songs.
Yeah.
Like there'll be like 4 bars that are like low with no drums and then it comes in like, but there's no like complete like, oh, here's the bridge of the song now and the chords have changed and everything's changed. And I like the freedom of being able to do that with producing my own stuff.
For sure. Yeah. That is a great point.
Yeah. I think in general in hip hop, I shouldn't say that. In circles of people that I know in hip hop, there's a problem with not having song structure, that it's just hook, verse, hook, verse.
Yeah.
And I have one particular friend and he knows who he is. And I tell him to listen to Taylor Swift because Taylor Swift has excellent song structure.
Dude, Taylor Swift.
Bro, I love her.
I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
She's so great.
But my friend does just hook, verse, hook, and then the song's done. And like, I think that works great for one song on the album, you know?
100%.
But like, you gotta have the back and forth between the hook and the verse and the bridge and the chorus, you know, just to like have the song grow and evolve, you know? I like being able to latch onto a song and hear it change over the course of 3.5 minutes or so.
Yes.
So I don't like when somebody just spits over a loop for two. Though, like I say that, but I do like that for certain songs. Like I think that variation over a project is the key. You know?
I agree. Yeah.
But you're a Taylor Swift fan too, huh?
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have been, honestly, but like, dude, that album, like Blank Space, you know that song?
Yes.
It's a great fucking song.
Yeah.
Like I listen to that often.
Yeah.
And I have been listening to that since it fucking came out.
Yeah,
in like 2017.
that album is fantastic.
Yeah, and her new album is fucking great.
Her new album's pretty good too.
She's a great
The
lyricist.
one before the new one, the Nevermore or Evermore or whatever, that one, that was possibly my most listened to album that year.
Yeah.
And it was in competition with Billie Eilish's album that came out that year and Olivia Rodrigo's album.
Dude, they're
and
great
the Jack Harlow one. Jack Harlow one was the only one that was like real hip hop on that.
Which Jack Harlow?
That's what they all say, I think was the name of it. With the Delta song is on that one. That album.
Bitch ain't flying a
yeah, that album's pretty great.
I do agree. I love Jack Harlow. I think, in my opinion, though, his best album is Confetti. Do you know that one?
Okay, yeah. I've listened to like most of his albums. That's what they all say was the one that has gotten the most play. But 18 and Confetti, I listened to a good amount.
Yeah,
too.
18 is really good too, dude.
Yeah,
but yeah, Confetti, I feel like he was really on one when he was making all those. You know.
Did you see Jeremy from Something Dope posted like a review of Jack Harlow's new album a couple weeks ago?
Yeah,
and I commented, I was like, I was kind of disappointed in the last Harlow album. I didn't hate it. Like, it got a lot of hate. I thought it was all right. I just wasn't interested in hearing it more than once, you know? And so after seeing Jeremy's review, I was like, oh, I'll check it out. And it's pretty good, the new one. That song, Gang Gang, though, that is like...
crazy, right?
It's a necessary song.
Dude, there's a couple things, and I'm really glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Because
I wanted to talk about that album as well, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I was going to tie it into what you were saying earlier is that album actually does cover a lot.
Yeah.
Throughout Jack Harlow's career, he's very much like a beacon of confidence, you know, where like he's just like, you know, like you look at that kid and you're like, dude, that kid probably got a lot of pussy in high school, you know, like it's not like you don't see him like struggling a lot. No offense to him, but like, you know, white dude. You know, but
charming.
Yeah, like come on now.
Yeah,
like and he's like very well spoken. You know, he's got manners and stuff. Like he's got the whole fucking package.
Yeah.
So it's very, for me, it's super nice, and for other artists, I feel like to hear him be like, dude, I'm second guessing myself. I don't know if I'm working. Like, what am I doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that song Denver, which is so funny because of course it's called Denver, right?
Yeah.
But he was just like very exposing himself, and I thought that was like so refreshing because I've never heard a Jack Harlow song like that.
Yeah,
like that one song, River Road.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that? It's on Confetti.
Yeah, it's the last one, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
that one is super good.
Mm-hmm.
I love that, and it's kind of like a vulnerable song, like Denver.
Yeah,
but he's talking about like, dude, I'm putting everything I can into this, and it's not popping. Like, what? I'm frustrated about that, you know? It's never like dude, I'm second guessing myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if I'm going in the right direction, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it is such like hip hop culture to be like, dude, look, I'm doing this. I'm right. I know exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of not so popular to be like, bro, I'm just shooting in directions. I'm hoping that it works. I'm trying. but like I don't know if it's right or wrong. You know, and I think that's just really nice to hear from an artist from that high up.
Yeah,
you know?
that's kind of the same thing that I liked about Gang Gang, was that it's not part of hip hop culture to be like, hey, there's some things that you can do that I'm not gonna have your back with.
Yeah.
Like, you can cross some lines. Like, that's not even, especially like, there's hip hop that goes, hey, if you cross me, we ain't good anymore. But that song is not about that. That's like, hey, if you do certain things to other people, I'm not having your back in this.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, we're all good. I'll ride and die for you, but like, bro, this is too far. I'm not respecting you after this.
Yeah.
And like, you don't hear that enough. Like,
100%. You always hear, "Oh, I got my dog's back."
Yeah,
that's my dog.
That's my dog.
It's
no
like,
matter
yo,
what.
What if your dog is touching kids?
Yeah,
that's a great point. Like, it's like okay,
no, you're not.
Off,
yeah, just I'm not riding with you on this one. This one, you're on your own.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's completely unspoken about.
Yeah,
it's totally a huge. And I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah,
but the other point about that Harlow album is the first song, Common Ground. And it's such a valid point where he's like, dude, this whole culture is turning into like not what it used to be. Like, he's saying like, these white kids, like the festivals are full of white kids with Larry Bird jerseys who are in a hurry to jump to a 4 count and say the N-word. And it's really true, you know? But it slowly shifted to like the consumers is like everybody. Yeah. Versus like hip hop was like a genre, you know? Yeah. And
now it's so mainstream that everybody feels like they're a part of it.
Exactly. So you got like these bloggers and stuff who are just, you know, white kids from the suburbs, like, and he's like, oh, and they're saying who's real, who's not. Like, it's like, but what are you doing for the culture? You are not even part of this. You're just like including yourself in it, and then on top of it, acting like you are the sayer of what's good and what isn't, you know? So and people don't talk about that. Yeah. They're like, oh, that's the blog, you know what I mean? But it's like, but wait a minute. Who are these people?
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
Why are we validating it?
I'll tell you what. I hate some festival people.
Right?
I had a conversation with somebody on this podcast a while ago about like target audiences. I commonly ask artists, like, describe who your common audience would be. Who your like your main fan based on your style, your brand, who that would be. And somebody said like festival goers, and I was like, I would have problems with fans because like. Not for any valid reason, just because I'm a judgmental prick. Like I don't like cool kids. That's what it is. Yeah. I'm a bit of a loser. Right. So like anytime like somebody who would go to Coachella or whatever, like any of these big festivals, I just picture like all the kids who are cooler than me go in high school that I would have problems with. You know,
100%,
and not for any valid reason, just because I'm like. It's such a flaw in me, yes. Because like I'm sure a lot of festival goers are some great, nice people, but I just assume they're all like selfish, brain dead losers.
I get it, honestly.
But on that note, your target audience, the perfect BaxkPaxkZaxk fan, what are they like?
I mean, I think. The perfect audience is probably someone like me. Okay. And I think I can't appease anybody else to an extent because it's like, you got to make the shit that you like. Otherwise, who's going to like it, you know? Yeah. So I would like to say that it's like a 24-year-old kid who's like, you know, lost and trying to figure out what's going on and like also trying really hard at a goal.
What kind of job does he have? What kind of car does he drive?
Like, see, because that's the other thing, man, is like, I really do want to appeal to myself at all times of my life, you know? So it's like, in the future, that's what I always talk about. Like in my raps and stuff, I try to always say like, I'm manifesting this perfect future. Bro, you know,
I am not as cool and will probably never be as cool as I was when I was 19. I was the coolest kid.
Right.
Like No joke. I was awesome. And so like when I make music, one of the things that I'm concerned about in it is like, what would my 19-year-old self think of this? Like if he heard this, would he be like, this is my favorite album? Because that's the goal. If he thinks it's the best, then I know it's a good album.
Right.
But then also like I try to do something that would help my 16-year-old self become a better person and like fully grown, mature person. Like lyrically, that's what I want to do. I want to inspire my 16-year-old self to be better. And then like sonically, I want my 19-year-old self to be like, this is the dopest album, shows it to all his friends. Because I had a lot of friends who made music when I was 19. So it's like, I want him to be like, hey, y'all ain't up on this though.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah, I totally agree. I think of myself throughout my life, and I'm like, what would that person think of this? Mm-hmm. You know? Because my life is very, like, you know, up and down. Like, I was a different person for a year, and then I was a different person for a year, and I was a different person for a year. So it's definitely, like, but at the same time, kind of back to what you were saying about how, like, you can try to do these things, but inevitably you'll be yourself, you know? Yeah. So I also try not to think about that too much.
That's funny. Like I always tell people, like when they, the common advice people give young men when they're trying to talk to girls is, just be yourself. And I always think that's the dumbest advice because like, how are you going to be anything except yourself? Like that's all you can be.
Right.
And it implies like, no, you know exactly what to do. Just trust yourself. And it's like, no, when you're that young, when you've never had a girlfriend, you have no clue what to do.
Right.
And so that's not good advice at all. You can be yourself and you're just going to be like, hey, how's it going?
Right.
And have a conversation. That's how you become friends with somebody because you know how to be friends, but you don't know how to progress that.
Turn it into something different. Yeah,
being yourself, terrible advice almost in every situation. Like
I think so funny. Yeah, you're like, dude, I've been being myself.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't have a girlfriend.
Yeah. I've been being myself. We're really close. We're friends. Like it's fantastic. I'm trying to do the next thing. What's the next thing? How do I do that?
Right.
And I think in like any kind of pursuit, like when people say it, I'm just you just be yourself, man. You take your words and you put it to your music, whatever you feel. Yeah, I feel tons of things.
Right.
And like, what do I do? How do I actually make that? So I feel like it's a cop out of giving practical advice, being yourself, I
kind of agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the same time, yeah, I totally hear that. I was just thinking back on like the last time I gave advice about a girl. It was a kid I was working with at my old job. He's like 19. And like the girl, she didn't cheat on him, but she was like talking to this dude who she had history with. And he had expressed like, yo, I don't want you talking to him. And she continued to talk to him. And me and this other dude were kind of giving this kid advice.
Yeah.
And the other dude was like, yo, leave that girl. Because she doesn't care about what you think. Like, if you said it and she didn't do it, that means that she's going to do it 100 more times. Because, and I'm like, I understand that 100%. At the same time, I was in a relationship for 7 years. I understand that it takes forgiveness and it takes proving, you know what I mean? Like, if my girl would have given up on me the first time that I lied to her, I'm not going to lie, then we wouldn't have had a relationship.
Yeah.
But she was able to forgive me and say, please don't do that again. And I said, okay, I get it. I fucked up. I didn't mean to hurt you like that. And now moving on, we can understand each other. There's something to be said about that. You know what I mean? At the same time, it's all subjective. It's based on what you want to deal with. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's up to you, bro.
Yeah. I always say like, you make the rules for how people treat you. Like people bring up relationship questions and it's like, is this okay that I'm being treated this way? And it's like, it's up to you.
Right.
You can be treated however you want to be treated.
It depends on if you own it or not.
And it's a risk because you could say, I don't want to be treated this way. And the other person would be like, well, then I'm not going to treat you anyway. And I'm going to leave. And like, you could end up alone. If your standards are too high, you might end up alone. But like, it's a risk. It's a negotiation. You just have to test things out. It's
Right.
kind of like making music. You know, you take in a new thing and you try it, and if it doesn't work out, you grow from it. You learn from it.
Yeah. 100%, man.
Yeah, I think that do you think significant others should be friends with people of the opposite sex?
See, because that's the thing. It's like, it's a broad question.
Okay,
I can see both sides.
Here's what I tend to feel. I feel like if the person you're friends with has a particular interest that you share, like in the music field, like if I'm friends with a girl that's a musician and we work on music together and we promote shows together, you know, like that's a reason to be friends.
100%.
If we're just friends because we like hanging out with each other, that's where it gets weird.
Yeah, that's a really good rule.
Right?
I think that you could basically chalk it up to that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if it's not I guess if it's like, because you can say, oh, it's not romantic, but then it's like, but then what is it?
Yeah.
Like, you guys hang out and you guys like each other's company and you just don't do anything. Like, that's romantic.
Yeah, it's the only thing that's preventing it from being romantic that you don't like the way they look. Because, like, that might change at some point.
Exactly. So it's like, is it me?
Yeah.
Is that the only reason why? Because otherwise, if I wasn't here, then you would just be romantically interested in this person.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but then what the fuck am I doing here? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great conversation. We just blew through this episode where we've reached the 50-minute mark. I always give the guests an opportunity here to shout out. I used to just have them shout out whoever, but it's been adding up over the past time. So here's what I do now. Shout out one person. I'm going to put their info down in the description of the video so that people can click that link. Whoever you think doesn't get enough recognition, any music, artist, whatever type of person, maybe of small business owners.
For sure. Okay. Yeah. I actually want to shout out my friend Adrian. The Real Age is what he goes by. He's my engineer, and he's a great producer. He's a fantastic engineer, honestly. Like, I got nothing but good things to say about that dude, because I had never heard my voice. Like, the way that I met him, like, I'm sorry to go off on a tangent.
Oh no, yeah, definitely go.
But like, my buddy had me on a feature like years ago, probably like 2020, and he's like, "Yeah, come to this studio," and I was like, "Okay." We was always recording in the bedroom and shit, but he was like, "Come to the studio," and I was like, "Okay." I got in the booth, bro, and I'm like a one taker, you know. Yeah. It's like, if it's not on the third one, then I'm like, dude, we're not doing this verse right now, you know. I'm really, because it's like, music is energy. And like, you're supposed to capture a moment. If you can't capture that moment, don't do it right now, because it's supposed to be perfect.
Yeah.
But I one took it and I walked back in. And by the time I got there, the presets that he put on my fucking voice, I was like, what the fuck is this, bro?
Yeah.
Like, my voice sounds like Jesus. And so from then on, I was like, bro, this guy is actually him. Definitely The Real Age, man. Everybody in Colorado, if you don't know how to mix and master, or if you need beats, you should definitely hit my boy. For real. It's amazing to me how much a good engineer fixes things. 100%.
Like, everybody, I heard this. I used to be in a band at church when I was in high school, like the youth band. And we had this discussion with one of the singers who was talking about, in American Idol, how they tell bad singers, like, have you ever recorded yourself and listened to you? Because you're not good and you should know that, And the singer was like, that's kind of weird advice, because the way you sound recorded is completely different than how you actually sound. Like, it depends on the quality of mic you use, and it depends on how it's mixed and everything. If you just have a rough cut recorded through your headphone microphone, like, it's not going to sound good.
Right.
But like, even if you have a high quality studio mic, if you just have the raw vocals, it's going to sound off. Like, it doesn't sound good.
100%. Yeah.
But when a good engineer starts adjusting the tone and everything, it starts sounding amazing. and I don't understand it at all. Like I'll watch
Me neither.
my engineer do it, and like he does the thing where he'll like raise up the frequency and then adjust it until it starts feeding back, and then he'll lower it just below the line, and like, yeah, I don't know what it does, but it works magic, and then you start sounding good, and it's like, because like often I'll get done with recording my vocals and then come out and listen to it and be like, oh man, this song is terrible. I don't know. Like I thought it was good. I was excited to record it, and now I'm listening to it and I hate it.
I've had that.
And then like it gets all adjusted and like, oh, that's how it was supposed to sound. Okay, it wasn't that I did a bad job. It's just that's the process of like you make the raw and then you fix it. Yeah. So shout out to good producer. What was his name again?
The Real Age.
The Real Age. Right on. I don't have anyone to shout out this week. We'll see what happens next week. But on that note, bro, BaxkPaxkZaxk.
Hell yeah.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Absolutely.
Everyone check out his music on Spotify. And
thank you for having me.
You guys have a good night.
Take care.
I'm feeling blessed. Tell me how are you? Just let me know.